Hello, in this video I want to talk about getting closure following an emotionally abusive relationship. I'm going to look at what closure is, why the abuser and other manipulators don't want you to have it, what are some of the common things that you might hear, how it affects you over time, and finally I'll give you some tips on how to give yourself closure so that you can save your own sanity and create a new life. Hello and welcome to the Divorce Sanctuary. My name's Elizabeth Goddard. I'm author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. On this channel I talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing both emotionally and physically from the abuser. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. So in this video I want to talk about closure and getting closure from the ending of a relationship. Relationship closure involves honest, healthy, non-judgemental communication that helps with letting go. Being denied closure when you're breaking up is unhealthy and damaging. It's destructive and it's controlling. Relationships break down for various different reasons, but healthy people are able to acknowledge what isn't working. It can be painful, but closure is helpful in moving on for both parties. But this wasn't a healthy relationship. The emotional abuser, the narcissist or the sociopath or the psychopath in your life won't give you the clean break that you so desperately need. They will never allow closure. The ending of this relationship was painful. The abuser created strong bonds with you during the relationship and repeated love bombing. They trauma bonded you. And when they drained you of everything and you were no longer of use to them, they just walked away. There's not even a messy conclusion. Instead, they need to leave their tendrils still attached to you. And you're left with so many questions. During the discard stage, they told you that what you did wrong, and their explanation, if you got one, was blame shifting. And you're left believing this is all your fault. But on some level, you know it isn't. This bond was so strong and the withdrawal is so painful that you looked at ways of getting the relationship back to where it was, back to where you were in the beginning, during the idealization stage. And you might have gone into a spiral of questioning what if and if only. You're trying to understand where you went wrong, replaying situations and conversations. If only you'd done something differently or said something else would have ended. So why didn't you get closure? There are a few reasons for this. Firstly, they're the victim. It was your behaviour that caused the breakup of the relationship. The attention that they receive from their friends and family, their work colleagues, the person next to them on the train, this gives them supplies them. Why would they give that up? And another reason is seeing you in pain. That is also a supply to them. It's supplying them with attention. They don't care if it's negative or positive, it's supply. And knowing that you're in pain gives them power. Not giving you closure allows them power and control over you. Not giving you closure allows them to play the victim. Not giving you closure evades responsibility. Not giving you closure makes you feel like you're crazy, there's something wrong with you. You might be ruminating, going over the relationship, trying to understand what happened. If only you'd said, if only you hadn't said, maybe if you had done something, or maybe if you hadn't done something. By not giving you closure, they're still part of your life. They're in your thoughts, they're in your actions. They want to maintain a connection with you. They can't let go, so they won't allow you to either. Asking for closure only gives more supply to them. And they might say things like, you have trust issues, shifting the blame onto you. They might use techniques like circular conversations where the arguments go on endlessly. You believe you have a resolution, but they are resurrected again, repeating the same pattern, leaving you confused and exhausted. They aren't about understanding. There's an initial feeling of relief that you've reached a conclusion, and then they start all over again. And you might agree again to the same terms and have the same feeling of relief, only to find out that within hours or within days it starts again. And you might say, but I thought we'd agreed. But yes, and off they go, not making sense, projecting and blame shifting. Just like word salad, these conversations don't make sense. They just spit words at you. And when you try to understand what is actually being said, the conversation is moved into a different direction. They bring up all the wrongdoings as an attempt to cover up their behaviour, and they play the victim. If you try to be part of this conversation, which is really one-sided and rhetorical, you're told to stop interrupting them. And then if they allow you to speak, they talk over the top of you, confusing you further, and you possibly end up wondering what's happened. And the weird thing is, it may sound normal because up to this point they've taken you round the cycle of abuse with the idealisation, and during the devaluation they continually told you what was wrong with you. You've heard about your failings before and what you've been doing wrong. Strange, isn't it, that it's at this point that they aren't able to be generous and help you get the closure you need. They've been used to distorting your perception of reality over and over and over again. And they gaslit you to make you think that you're a certain way that you're not. They gaslight you to get them out of trouble. There might be a period of time where life seems peaceful and you can breathe, and then these thoughts creep in and you have a need to know. Perhaps you sense deep down this isn't just a discard and they actually aren't coming back this time. You start to crave them, and then you need to know. Your emotions are torn between the feelings of love and hate because you don't understand what happened and you're trying to get answers. It might be that you have children together, they might owe you money, you might be trying to get them to divorce. They might use these circumstances to keep you in their life and to keep a connection. The money will be paid back next month. They're waiting for a bonus, a lump sum of money to hit their account. They'll pay you over the next few months. Oops, the car broke down. Check that they've been waiting for bounced, and they're sorting this out. Or they challenge what you owe them, asking you to break it down and prove it. They need bank statements. They need to check their accounts. The same excuses with the paperwork. They hadn't realised that they needed to supply XYZ. They're waiting for a response from their accountant. The paperwork went missing. They're waiting for a response from the bank. Perhaps it's possessions that are taking up space, purposely left, or when they arrive to collect it, they leave something behind. Or perhaps they've kept items belonging to you, causing you to make contact with them. This is done to keep the door open and to top them up with supply. They might try a smear campaign, leaving you feeling emotionally hurt, marked with the repeated reminder of the relationship with them. They are compulsive liars. They know the pain that they've caused you. Your attention is the proof that they need to show how powerful they are, and it reinforces the amount of control they still have over you. Not getting closure can affect you as the target over time. You replay the relationship over and over again. You might experience confusion, self-doubt, paranoia. You might experience fear or feel like you're losing your mind. You might feel vulnerable. By not getting closure, you might experience difficulty making decisions. You might experience feelings of guilt, not being good enough, and loneliness. By not having closure, you might not be able to reconcile the abuser's version of events over your reality. Getting closure in any relationship helps both parties to move on. It helps them to draw a line and move forward, to create new futures with new partners if they choose. Getting closure helps with the understanding of the role that you played and the abuser played. It helps healing of any trauma that happened. It helps with the acceptance of what happened and the reasons for that. If you're reaching out to the abuser to get closure, you might find yourself more confused with even more questions. They don't need closure and they don't want you to have it either. They just want to move on. They just don't want you to. And you might be thinking, what happened? You might be asking, what did I do wrong? You experienced the cycle of abuse, the idealization, the devaluation and discard, and each element was carried out with precision for their desired results. And now you're experiencing chaos and the destruction left at the end of that relationship. The abuser walks away without a backward glance, having secured in place their next source of supply. And you're trying to understand what happened, wondering why, after they showered you with so much attention at each cycle, that they are now ignoring you. Perhaps you're constantly asking if they ever loved you. Can they be healed? Could it work if you forgave them? You might be checking which boundaries you can drop now. Consciously or subconsciously, you're looking for closure to gain understanding. You believe by getting an explanation from them, it will help you. You want to know why they did what they did and understand why you weren't enough. You want an apology because on some level, you know this isn't your fault. You know this is their fault and believe by them taking responsibility for their actions that you'll get the closure you need. Under most circumstances, this would be a reasonable request, but not in this situation. Your need for closure is felt as a threat. The words that you might use, like what went wrong or why did you hurt me, these are processed and then filtered, and they provoke fear. Your questioning is a threat to their control or as a challenge to their control. So remember, they can't take responsibility. It's somebody else's fault. So when you say, why did you hurt me? They didn't do it. Or it was because you hurt them. They blame shift. Or they didn't want to hurt you, but because you hurt them, and they project. The majority of the abusers do not understand who they are, so they see this as an attack on their fragile sense of self. But some do, and they know that you are being a threat to their power and control. They know they can't tell you this because it's part of a game. They can't tell you that they were bored, so they started looking around for new supply. They can't tell you that they know you didn't do anything wrong. They can't say to you that they have to blame you because they're devoid of empathy. And they can't say or tell you anything to give you the closure that you're asking for because it will give you power. So they either can't give you closure because they don't understand it themselves, or it threatens the control that they have over you. So when you seek the explanation for their accountability, they have to reject it. You'll be treated to perhaps the circular conversations or some form of word salad, or they might start a pity party claiming it wasn't their fault, that they need help. They might remind you of their awful childhood or bad relationships they've had, blame shifting it and not taking the accountability for their actions in any way. This creates more frustration and you seem to have a bigger need to know. The saddest thing is that you can ask and ask, but you're never going to get the answers that you need, just more confusion, and you'll experience more pain. You will never get closure from them. Giving you closure would not serve them in any way. They'd be giving up the attention they claim they don't want from you, and they would be handing back the power and control of your life. Another reason they would be having to acknowledge that they were somehow to blame, and they can't do that. Their damaged inner child could not handle it. all the time that you're in pain, confused and asking questions, the focus is still on them. They have no empathy. They can't put themselves in your shoes. They don't want to understand the pain that you're in. So not to be trapped in this relationship for the rest of your life, you will need to get closure. The only way you're going to do it is to give it to yourself. So give yourself the closure you need. On some level, you know this wasn't your fault. Start with that. Write your story. Where are the inconsistencies? Validate your intuition. Try not to get the abuser to take responsibility for what they have done. The whole reason that they've done it is to avoid responsibility. Go no contact or grey rock. Try grieving the relationship. You need to grieve the reality of the past, the present situation that you find yourself in, and you need to grieve the fake future you have hung on for. Give yourself permission to heal. Own your reality and take responsibility for your healing. Learn to breathe and to ground yourself, and do this daily. Also, when your emotions, the rumination, or you're knocked off your feet by the pain of the situation that you now find yourself in, start breathing and counting. Another thing you can do is create a new future. You don't have to take huge steps or make big life-changing decisions. Start imagining what you want your life to look like. To make this easier, you could start with planning your perfect day. And if life gives you a bit of a side swipe, pick something to lift you up. Maybe breakfast in bed, a trip to a coffee shop, walk in nature, some flowers. Start giving yourself permission to live. During the devaluation stage, they continually told you what was wrong with you. You've heard about your failings before, what you've been doing wrong. Strange, isn't it then, that at this point that they aren't able to be generous and help you get the closure you need? Getting closure in any relationship helps both parties to move on and draw a line, to create new futures with new partners. It helps them with the understanding of the role they played, helps heal trauma, it helps with acceptance of what happened and the reasons for that. They don't need closure and they don't want you to have it. The only way you're going to do this is by giving yourself closure. I hope you found this useful. If you'd like to find out more ways of working with me, I'll put the link to my website in the description box below, along with the links to both my books, Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse, and my free workbooks, Self-Care is Vital and Turn Broken into Your Superpower. Also put the link to the community over on Facebook, the Divorce Sanctuary, where we support each other emotionally divorcing from the abuser. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'm sending you loads and loads of love.